Angelina Jordan and the mainstream question, can she enter the charts without losing herself? Angelina Jordan has already achieved something many artists spend decades chasing: respect. From the moment she won Norway's Got Talent to her unforgettable appearance on America's Got Talent, The Champions, she proved that her voice carries emotional authority far beyond her years. But respect and mainstream dominance are not the same thing. Now the critical question emerges: can Angelina Jordan enter the mainstream charts without sacrificing the emotional depth that defines her? To answer that, we must understand the mechanics of mainstream success. Chart performance is influenced by replay value, streaming retention, playlist placement, social media traction, and radio compatibility. Most chart-topping songs are built around immediate hooks, rhythmic energy, and concise structure. Angelina's signature style, however, thrives on slow pacing, atmospheric tension, and subtle delivery. At first glance, these seem incompatible. But they are not. The path forward is not transformation. It is calibration. The first strategic adjustment would be sonic modernization. This does not mean abandoning jazz or blues influences. It means layering them with subtle contemporary textures, ambient production, restrained percussion, atmospheric synth pads, and cinematic mixing. Her voice would remain central, but the surrounding soundscape would feel current rather than retro. Modern framing increases accessibility without diluting authenticity. The second adjustment involves melodic architecture. Mainstream tracks often rely on strong, repeatable choruses. Angelina can maintain emotional subtlety while crafting refrains that are memorable after a single listen. A hook does not need to be loud. It needs to be emotionally sticky. If listeners can hum the chorus after one play, streaming algorithms respond positively. Streaming behavior drives chart visibility. The third factor is playlist strategy. Digital platforms categorize music by mood. Angelina's sound aligns naturally with categories like cinematic soul, late-night jazz, chill vocal, and reflective pop. Strategic playlist placement introduces her music to passive listeners who may not actively search for her name. Exposure through mood-based discovery often leads to organic fan conversion. Discovery without compromise is the objective. The fourth element is narrative repositioning. As long as the public primarily associates her with childhood milestones, mainstream perception remains limited. Interviews, visuals, and promotional language must reinforce maturity and authorship. If she is visibly involved in songwriting and conceptual direction, her identity shifts from prodigy to creator. Creator status enhances credibility. Collaboration is another potential bridge. A duet with an artist who commands mainstream respect but shares emotional depth could introduce her to broader audiences. The collaboration must feel balanced and authentic, not opportunistic. When executed correctly, shared fan bases multiply reach. Association reshapes demographics. Timing also matters. Cultural climate influences listening habits. During periods of global uncertainty or introspection, audiences gravitate toward emotionally rich music. Releasing introspective material at the right moment can significantly increase impact. Context amplifies resonance. Now let's address the central fear: losing identity. Many artists who attempt to enter the mainstream alter their core sound so drastically that long-term fans feel alienated. The solution for Angelina is consistency in emotional tone. Even if production evolves, her phrasing discipline, restrained delivery, and tonal warmth must remain intact. The emotional through line is non-negotiable. Mainstream expansion does not require louder vocals or trend chasing. It requires clarity of brand, refined melodic construction, and strategic exposure. If her team prioritizes controlled evolution rather than dramatic reinvention, she can occupy a unique space within the charts, one defined by emotional intelligence rather than sonic aggression. Angelina Jordan's competitive advantage is that her music invites listeners to lean in rather than step back. In a saturated environment of overstimulation, that contrast can become her strongest differentiator. So the real question is not whether she can enter the mainstream. The real question is whether the mainstream is ready for restraint, vulnerability, and depth presented with modern precision. If positioned correctly, Angelina Jordan will not need to chase the charts. The charts will adjust to her presence because entering the mainstream is not the final objective. Sustaining mainstream presence is the real challenge. Many artists achieve a breakthrough single. Very few convert that moment into long-term chart stability. For Angelina Jordan, if she successfully enters broader commercial space, the next phase becomes consolidation. Consolidation means reinforcing identity immediately after expansion. If her first mainstream-leaning original track gains traction, the follow-up release becomes critical. The second release must confirm that the first was not accidental. It must expand the sonic palette slightly while maintaining emotional cohesion. This is how artists avoid being categorized as one-hit anomalies. Consistency builds category ownership. Another key factor is live performance scaling. Once mainstream visibility increases, venue size often increases with it. But scaling must be controlled. Jumping too quickly from intimate theaters to massive arenas can disrupt the emotional intimacy that defines her connection with audiences. Gradual scaling preserves authenticity while increasing reach. Growth must feel earned, not forced. Media narrative will also intensify. With mainstream traction comes heightened scrutiny. Interviews may shift from admiration to critical evaluation. Comparisons to other charting artists will increase. This is where brand clarity becomes essential. If her public messaging consistently reinforces emotional depth, artistic intention, and creative autonomy, scrutiny strengthens rather than weakens her positioning. Clarity neutralizes comparison. There is also the risk of algorithm dependency. Once an artist tastes streaming acceleration, pressure to replicate that formula can become internal as well as external. The danger lies in over-optimizing for data metrics instead of artistic integrity. Angelina's advantage is that her core audience values authenticity. If she maintains that alignment, data will follow identity rather than dictate it. Identity must lead. Metrics must follow. Another strategic lever is catalog layering. If her original mainstream entry point introduces new listeners, her earlier work becomes discovery material. This is why cohesive catalog management matters. Older performances, acoustic versions, and stripped-down sessions should remain accessible and well presented. New fans often explore backward. If they find depth, they stay. Retention depends on catalog strength. Touring strategy also evolves at this stage. Rather than purely promotional tours, curated thematic tours, built around album concepts, reinforce artistic seriousness. Thoughtful stage design, storytelling between songs, and controlled pacing differentiate her from artists who rely solely on production spectacle. Emotional immersion outlasts visual overload. Financial structure becomes another dimension. With mainstream success comes commercial opportunity, endorsements, brand partnerships, media appearances. The selection process must remain disciplined, aligning only with brands that reflect elegance, subtlety, and authenticity protects long-term perception. Association affects legacy. Now consider the long arc beyond the charts. Mainstream visibility is a tool, not a destination. If used correctly, it amplifies artistic influence. If mismanaged, it distracts from it. For Angelina Jordan, the ultimate goal should not be chart position alone. It should be cultural imprint. Cultural imprint occurs when songs are tied to life moments. When they become wedding tracks, reflection tracks, film soundtrack staples, late-night emotional companions. That kind of imprint requires sincerity and durability. Durability requires restraint. Angelina's entire brand is built on emotional control and subtle intensity. If mainstream expansion preserves those characteristics rather than eroding them, she occupies a rare space, commercially visible yet artistically respected. That balance is difficult. But if achieved, it creates longevity beyond cycles, beyond algorithms, beyond trend windows. And in the end, longevity is the real measure of success, and Angelina's fanbase spans age groups. Parents and grandparents appreciate her tone. Younger listeners are drawn by her uniqueness. That multi-generational appeal creates stability. Pop stardom can be explosive, but it can also be age-restricted. By refusing to narrow her identity, she maintains broader demographic reach. There is also artistic satisfaction to consider. Some artists thrive on commercial experimentation. Others thrive on emotional authenticity. If an artist feels disconnected from their output, long-term burnout becomes likely. Remaining aligned with personal musical taste preserves passion. Passion sustains longevity. When artists chase trends they don't genuinely connect with, the disconnect eventually shows. Critics sometimes argue that refusing pop reduces mainstream visibility. That may be true in the short term. But mainstream visibility is not the only measure of success. Artistic respect, catalog durability, and sustained touring ability often outlast chart spikes. History shows that many artists who resisted mainstream pressure built careers spanning decades precisely because they protected their core sound. Another important aspect is vocal preservation. Pop performance styles can demand constant high-energy belting and intense touring schedules. Jazz and soul, while still demanding, often allow for more dynamic variation and interpretative flexibility. Protecting vocal health at a young age is crucial. Choosing repertoire that aligns naturally with vocal texture rather than forcing range expansion prematurely is a strategic long-term move. There is also the narrative factor. The music industry thrives on storytelling. An artist who refuses conformity creates intrigue. Audiences become curious. Why doesn't she follow trends? Why does she choose older songs? Why maintain barefoot symbolism? These questions sustain engagement. Predictability reduces intrigue. Distinction enhances it. Refusing to be a typical pop star does not mean rejecting growth. It means defining growth differently. Instead of chasing viral moments, growth may come through deeper songwriting, cinematic production expansion, orchestral collaborations, or carefully curated live experiences. It may involve gradual artistic layering rather than dramatic rebranding. Ultimately, the decision not to conform is both artistic and strategic. It protects identity. It cultivates loyal audiences. It builds long-term positioning rather than short-term spikes. In an era where many artists compete for immediate attention, choosing timelessness can be the boldest move of all. Angelina Jordan's refusal to become a typical pop star is not resistance out of fear. It appears to be resistance out of clarity. She seems to understand that her strength lies not in matching the moment, but in transcending it. Trends fade. Authentic voices endure. And in the long run, endurance defines legacy far more than temporary dominance ever could. And that is where the real turning point in Angelina Jordan's journey begins. After stunning the world with her unforgettable audition on America's Got Talent, The Champions, Angelina was no longer just the barefoot girl from Norway. She became a global talking point. Industry executives, vocal coaches, producers, and serious music critics began analyzing her voice not as a talent show act, but as a legitimate recording artist with long-term potential. But here is what many people didn't see. Behind the applause, behind the viral views, behind the standing ovations, there was strategy. There was patience. And there was a quiet understanding that rushing her career could damage something rare. Angelina did not chase mainstream pop trends. She did not suddenly pivot to radio-friendly dance tracks. Instead, she leaned deeper into her identity, the jazz, blues, soul, and emotionally rich ballads. That decision alone separated her from most young artists of her generation. When she signed with Republic Records, it marked a significant milestone. Republic Records is not a small independent label experimenting with unknowns. It is home to some of the biggest global stars. Signing with them signaled that powerful industry players believed in her long-term artistic value. Now let's talk about vocal development. As Angelina matured, something subtle but powerful happened to her voice. The childlike brightness softened. The lower register became richer. The vibrato gained control and emotional precision. Her phrasing became even more deliberate. She began singing not just with instinct, but with technical mastery layered onto instinct. That evolution is critical. Many child prodigies struggle during vocal transition years. Their voices change. Their range shifts. Their control fluctuates. Some lose the very quality that made them special. Angelina, however, navigated that transition with remarkable stability. That is not accidental. That is discipline. And discipline is something rarely discussed in her story. While many artists her age were focused on visibility and social media dominance, Angelina focused on musicianship. Live instrumentation. Classic arrangements. Respect for legacy artists. You can hear influences of Billie Holiday, Etta James, and other golden-era vocalists woven into her tone choices and interpretative decisions, without imitation. That balance is extremely difficult to achieve. Now here is a deeper question people are starting to ask. Can Angelina Jordan become a timeless artist? Not just viral. Not just admired. But timeless. Timeless artists share certain traits. They understand emotional storytelling. They resist trends. They allow silence in their music. They are comfortable with restraint. And they choose songs that mean something beyond commercial success. Angelina checks those boxes. But the modern music industry is aggressive. Algorithms reward speed. Streaming culture rewards quantity. The pressure to release constant content is real. So the strategic challenge for her team is this: how do you protect artistry in an industry that rewards noise? And this is why her slower, deliberate approach may actually be her greatest advantage. Instead of flooding the market, she builds anticipation. Instead of overexposure, she maintains mystique. Instead of chasing every collaboration, she chooses carefully. That restraint builds longevity. Now let's talk about her audience. What makes Angelina unique is the age span of her fans. Children are mesmerized by her story. Teenagers connect to her individuality. Adults admire her maturity. And older jazz listeners respect her musical sensibility. Very few artists bridge generational gaps like that. It is not just talent. It is emotional intelligence. And as she steps further into adulthood, a new chapter is forming. This chapter is no longer about proving she is gifted. That has already been established. The next chapter is about defining her artistic voice in original music, not just covers. Original music will be the real test. Covers reveal interpretation. Original songs reveal identity. When that catalog expands, we will see the full architecture of who Angelina Jordan truly is as an artist. So the bigger picture becomes clear. She is no longer the barefoot child singing jazz standards. She is a developing global artist navigating transition with rare composure. She is a vocalist balancing nostalgia and modernity. And she is a case study in how patience may outperform hype. The world is watching, not for another viral moment, but for permanence. And permanence requires evolution. So the real question is not whether Angelina Jordan is talented. That conversation is over. The real question is, what kind of legacy is she building? And that answer is still unfolding. And also, if you enjoy this video, please subscribe and comment for more videos, and please share the video. Thanks for watching. See you in another next video. Peace out.